Okay, good morning again for those who are in the room. Good morning for people that have just joined. My name is Lori Milner, and this is one of my highlights of my year is the brand bootcamp with ORT Jet. Just a tiny bit about me so you know who you're in the room with. I work as an executive coach, as a trainer, as a speaker. I'm an entrepreneur. I started my business in 2011. And interestingly, before I started my own business, I was in the world of branding and advertising. So I always say I started out branding products and then somehow I managed to move into a space of branding people. So to kick off, I want you to think about what are some of those brands you trust. It could be from where are you going to go for your favorite coffee? Who do you trust with your hair? Who do you trust with your money? If you start to think about the brands that you really invest in, what is it about them? What would you associate with them? So let's take an example. And if I said to you, okay, let's take the brand Apple iPhone. What words, what images, what experience do you associate with the brand Apple? And if we were in a live workshop, I would be taking ideas from you guys, but typically what comes up? Expensive, Steve Jobs, innovation, design, and this is what we tend to associate with the brand. So then what is a brand? And what it comes down to is a promise, because it's a promise of the value that you know you're going to get for that. Also, sorry, what I should have said from the beginning is don't worry to copy down the slides. You will get the whole slide deck from me. But really, what is the power of a brand is it's a sorting device. It's a shorthand. It's a shortcut. You walk in somewhere and, say we're looking for a specific product and we know exactly I'm coming in to get my Nivea. You don't even see the other brands anymore because you know exactly what you're going for. And that's the power of a brand. So in the same way, we spoke about products, think about people that are brands. Up here are some examples. So again, if we said, well, let's take Oprah. What are the words? What do we associate with Oprah? And I'm sure we would say things like humanitarian. She's a great listener. She's a giver. Everybody look under your chair. She's got this amazing image in the minds of everybody she touches. And Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, he said it best. And he said, a brand for a product is like a reputation for a person. So think about that. Because in the same way, these brands, they create these words, these images in our mind. So do you. And what I want us to spend this hour thinking about are what are the desired words that you want to come into people's minds when they think about you? So in other words, what do you have to do to start to become a brand? And why does it matter? Because guys, as entrepreneurs in your own business, even if you're working for someone, people will buy into you before they buy into your product or service. And our brand, it's the story, it's our story. And often it's a story other people make us up about us in the absence of information. So it's always up to us to consistently and persistently show up in a way that's going to amplify our brand, amplify the words you want it to come into people's minds. Because at the end of the day, it's not what you say about yourself. Your brand is about what other people are saying about you, often when you're not in the room. And we have to take ownership of positioning our brand, or it will be positioned by others. What is the starting point? How do I start to create this great brand? And it really comes down to, and do this in your own time, but just start to think about it now. If I say to you, what are 4 words that you want people to associate with you? So when they think about you, do you want them to see you? Wow, they're trustworthy, they're ambitious, they're dynamic, they're innovative, they're creative, they are problem solvers, they're reliable. I know if I hand it over, I know it's going to get done. So start to think and be really deliberate. What are those words for me? And then part 2 to this, what are you doing every day to demonstrate it? Because we can't walk around with a t-shirt that says loyal and ambitious and dynamic. It's through everything we do and say. So if you want to be known as trustworthy, what are you doing to inspire that? If you want people to know you're reliable, what are you doing to demonstrate that? And so the difference between how we want to show up and how we are showing up comes down to congruence. Is the way that I'm showing up actually backing up the words that I want to be known for? And it's about everything we do and say communicates. And equally, it's often the things we don't do or we don't say that communicates. In an ideal world, we would go through this whole roadmap, but this is the essence of a personal brand. Because sometimes you think personal branding and they go, oh yeah, it's about dress. It's a teeny little aspect. So we are not going to go through all of this today in detail, but what I want to do is just go into a few of the main areas. And this is about giving you some things to think about. And then from there, you can decide where you want to start working on. So, you know, these fire hydrants, what would happen if I pulled open that thing? You know what's going to happen? The water's going to come flying out of everywhere. That's what the next just under hour is going to feel like. The next 50 minutes is going to feel like that. There's a lot of content and it comes fast, but my aim is to give you value and a lot of things to think about. So if we start with our physical presence, because our brand, it's about, again, how are we showing up? And the moment we walk into a room, people are starting to size up our physical presence. And it's about how are we showing up, how are we holding ourselves, and how are we presenting ourselves to others? So starting with dress, because it is an element of personal branding. And, you know, we get a sense in terms of style between the left and the right-hand side. But what I want you to know in terms of dress, it's about trust. Am I inspiring trust by the way that I'm showing up? It's not about brands. It's not about spending a lot of money. It's about being appropriate to the environment and authentic to you. So often, if I find myself, I'm predominantly corporate work, I don't know who's sitting in the room. So I always err on the side of being more conservative. I'm covering my shoulders. I'm keeping myself more covered. I don't want to offend anybody. So, or specifically, if it's a very formal culture, maybe a law firm, I'm going to dress in a way that I'm inspiring trust with them. I'm speaking their language. Let's say you're an ad designer, or let's say it's something that's maybe more agricultural. Coming in a suit is also going to look ridiculous. So try to think about my audience. Try to think about the customer. Am I inspiring trust? It's like a pilot. Think about how they arrive on the plane. They're always in that uniform and there's this gravitas around them. Because if the dude, you know, at the bottom left got up and said, ladies and gents, I'm so excited to drive you to Cape Town, fly you to Cape Town today. We're looking for another airline. And in the words of Sylvia Ann Hewlett, she said, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Physical presence plays a huge role. It's also about consistency. So I'm going to quote Seth Godin a lot today, American marketer, but it really is the essence of branding is consistency, because it doesn't help to show up one way, you hit lights out, you deliver the next week. Oh, I've dropped the ball. Sorry. Think about your favorite cup of coffee. I'm a Seattle person and they get it right every time. But if one day I went and it was amazing, and then the next time it was a little bit bitter, I'd start to go, I'm not sure about this brand anymore. And I might start to explore other options. So just think about that consistency. We don't have to be perfect, but it's, are we being consistent? And we're going to touch on more about that just now. So part of physical is also, it's the way that we communicate. And, you know, we think, well, what's more important? Is it the verbal, what I'm saying? Is it the non-verbal, what I'm not saying? Or is it both? The research that came out of UCLA, they did a lot of research, and what they found is that when it came to communicating a message, only 7% accounted for the actual words when understanding the message and interpreting it. The rest, all the nonverbal, body language, inflection, tone. And so what we start to understand, it's not even so much about what we say, but it's how we say it. So in terms of when we think about how are we showing up, guys, go back to basics. And what I'm going to say today, and I'll call these a series of BLOs, blinding lights of the obvious. I'm going to say a lot of things where you go, I know that. This is not new, but sometimes we just need reminding of the basics, because when we get stressed, challenged, overwhelmed, it can fall off. Basics in terms of, did we say please and thank you? Did we give credit where it's due? Also, you know, mind what you're shutting down. Don't be that person in the meeting who's going, but that's not going to, it's not possible. Can't happen. Where are we bringing solutions, not just discovering problems? But what's more interesting is that how we're showing up is about that 55%. It's the non-verbal. So some things to think about when we're just communicating with someone. Are we making eye contact? And what that does, it's about, am I giving you attention? Am I giving you focus? We've all had the experience of someone who's kind of, yeah, and they're there, but they're not there. They're on their phone. It's about giving your presence to somebody else. Even something like body language. You could be thinking to yourself, wow, I'm really happy today and I'm so grateful and I've got the best clients, but you forgot to tell your face about it. And you're walking around kind of, angry at the world and no one knows but you. So smile sometimes, and especially people that get very anxious or quite, if you're going through a tough time and you're taking it out on your team or those around you, sometimes just forcing a smile and bringing that warmth into your face, can sound too simple, makes the biggest difference. Also, guys, body language. I'll send you a deck of resources as well to look at Amy Cuddy's TED Talk. And basically what they discovered is that we know mind influences body. So they said, could body influence mind? And as a social psychologist, they did a study where they had people do two groups. The first group had to stand in low power poses. So you can see at the bottom, really shrinking themselves. The second group had to stand in high power poses. So, the victory pose or the Wonder Woman. And what happened is that it boosted testosterone and it dropped cortisol, the stress hormone. So what Amy says is, before a really daunting interview, courageous conversation, a pitch, boost your physiology. Don't do it in front of people, but just go stand in a room. And she says, boost your physiology, make yourself feel powerful. But even just the way you walk into a meeting, when you're standing properly, think about, if you're sitting in a meeting, even if it's online and you hunched and you kind of like this, versus sitting attentive, taking notes, you're saying to that person, I'm here, I'm with you. You've seen the disinterest that comes from people's body language. So this is just different layers of awareness, guys, because your energy is going to introduce you before you even say good morning. So my 4 Ps for nonverbal, how do we build a great brand? Number 1, preparation. So if you are going into a meeting with a supplier, a new client, you're pitching, the more prepared we can be, the better. In terms of, did we go into their website? Did we look at industry trends? Did we go into LinkedIn? Did we understand, who am I meeting with? So the more prepped we can be, even just coming with a few key questions, wow, you've done your homework. But that's not always enough, because the second P is participation. Because far too many times we've all been in situations where you want to say something, you want to add advice, you want to give an insight, and you just think, no, just keep quiet. Let me just not say anything. I'm going to rock the boat. I'm going to sound stupid, but that's a missed opportunity. And in these sorts of situations, this is where you show your brand. This is where you can add value. So being able to participate, adding an insightful comment, a question is going to go a long way. Third one is be punctual. So we all have someone in our life that's always 20 minutes late. We all know that person. And then what do we associate with them? Well, they're not reliable. They're not really trustworthy. Even if someone's 5 minutes late, the client could be thinking, geez, how am I going to trust them with my business if they can't arrive on time? So you might just have been caught up, or you generally, you say, oh, I'm always, I'm not a punctual person. People start to associate that you don't respect their time. So as much as you can to be on time. On time is early. No, early is on time and on time is late. And the fourth one is presence. And I touched on it just now. Again, if you're in a conversation, be in the conversation. So this is going back to the preparation thing, guys. Use LinkedIn, because we're selling to people. So before you go into a meeting, go through all of this stuff. I'm not going to spend time on this. Read through this. Do your research. So imagine this person. I had this once. I was meeting with a CEO, and I went onto his LinkedIn profile and I saw that he's a comrades runner. And so when I went in for the meeting and I said, wow, I see that you've been running comrades for the last 5 years. And his face lit up. Yes. And then he's telling me about comrades, and I'm asking him about the prep, and I've just connected and genuinely connected. And then we went in to have the discussion for why we were there. But there's so much free information about people we want to see. Just make sure that we can harness it in the right way. If I skip slides, don't worry, it's for a reason. You'll get the deck. And guys, just something else to think about. It's just the biggest demonstration of your brand is your work. So if you imagine if you're putting out something, it's this giant stamp that's got brand you on it. Are you proud of it? Doesn't mean it has to be perfect and that you obsess about it and don't complete it, but is there a pride in it? Is it being, am I transparent if something goes wrong? Have I checked the details? Have I checked the spelling? Have I made sure that I'm consistent? So what we're putting out there is so important. Another thing to think about, we've all think about a great brand experience you've had. And I always go back to Apple because I could get a new watch and that's very exciting. So I went into the Apple store, the one in Santon, and they made me feel amazing and they took me over and the whole process was so seamless. And I loved that experience. So the thing is to think about, maybe for you, it was a restaurant you went to or a hotel you went to or a clothing store and they just made you feel great. Or even just someone knew their product so well. It was such an easy experience. So in the same way, what is your brand experience? What is it like for people to work with you? Is it easy? Can they get hold of you? Do you provide information? And it's thinking about these sort of touch points with me as a brand. Do I need to improve certain areas? What is that experience like? And then, asking yourself, what is it that you do that separates you? Where are you adding that wow value? What do you want to be famous for? You're the problem solver, you do the best code, whatever it is. And then making sure that your daily actions are focused on that. So as Seth said, we are either remarkable or invisible. We get to make a choice. And one thing to touch on when I'm talking about being a great brand is that I don't want to create an impression that you're not allowed to make a mistake. It's the opposite. We are human and we're fallible. And guess what? We're going to make a lot of mistakes. And this ad campaign came out of KFC in the UK many years ago. It was pre-COVID. And basically, they changed suppliers. They ran out of chicken across half their stores. And they didn't blame and shame. They went, I'm sorry, this is what's happened. And they owned it. And so it's the same with us. If we do make a mistake, if there's a delivery that's going to get there late, if a supplier lets you down, the more transparent we can be. Guys, this is what's happened, but this is what I'm doing. I'm going to update you every hour. Don't worry, I'm going to cover the cost on this. I'm going to make sure this gets to you. Not cost all the time. But the way we deal with the crisis, we can show up even more trustworthy. Think about a silly example. We've all had a dinner experience that was botched and everyone's food came at the wrong time, or it was cold and they messed it up. And then the manager came and he either comped desserts or brought a bottle of something and you're like, wow, they're amazing. And you spoke highly of them because of how they fixed the situation. It's the same with us. And at the end of the day, what is your brand? What is the physical presence? What is my promise? And the best way to be a great brand, keep the promises you make. So now we move into interpersonal presence, because we could tick all the boxes on the physical presence, on the verbal, the nonverbal, but the image, what we've created for ourselves is that we are really difficult to work with and it becomes part of our brand. Something else I didn't mention, I'm going to leave time at the end for Q&A. So if you've got any questions, please just note them down and we will get there. And really because if you think about branding, what is it that we do as entrepreneurs, as business owners? It's a people business. And the way we deal with people is going to impact how we are perceived and what kind of a brand we are. So the main things to think about, these are just the main touch points. So for you to be an amazing brand, master the skill of self-observation, watching yourself in situations, having that level of self-awareness. So some things to think about. Do I respond defensively to criticism? Do I always need to be right? Am I always in a hurry? I rush and then have to go back and fix my mistakes. Do I blame? What happens to me under stress? So the more we can start to understand these patterns and how we're showing up with people, we can start to course correct. Now, an interesting way to also prevent situations happening. So if you think about your car, if you're about to run out of petrol, the petrol light goes on or the fuel light goes on. Brilliant early warning system, because it's going, if you don't pay attention to this, something's going to go wrong. And we have that same early warning system, which is our body wisdom. And that's about, let's say, if I said to you, where do you get triggered in your body? When you get angry, when you get upset, if you just got a rude email. And I said, but where do you feel it? Some of us are going to go, I don't know what you're talking about. But for some people, it's my throat. My throat starts to close. For some people, my stomach, it's their fists, it's the jaw. They go, I don't know, I just get hot on my neck or my cheeks. And the more we can be aware of that, that's the early warning system. And when you can feel that trigger in your body, it's about pause. Just insert that mental pause button so that we can slow down to really respond rather than react. And sometimes not responding and just pausing even for 24 hours before you respond is going to help you to be a more powerful brand. Because how many times have we all just lost it? We got triggered. We said what, we're still regretting it. They're still holding us accountable for it. But if we can learn to slow down in those pressure moments, and like taking up body space is a power move, sometimes slowing down or even just pausing before responding is an even bigger power move. So relationships and interpersonal is a huge topic, but this is one of the things that for me work the best in any situation, and it's react to the outcome, not to the event. So let's say, and the most typical example is someone dropped the ball. So you handed over something, you said to them, can you please get this done? And they went fine. And basically the day before you find out nothing was done. And so now naturally, how do you want to go into this conversation? So in fact, it's actually a true story. So I was working with a client and the exact same thing happened and she had to pull 2 all-nighters and she was rightly furious. And I said to her, but how do you want to work with this person going forward? What do you want to get out of this conversation? And they thought about it because they just first wanted to tell them how useless they are and how angry she is. And all they would really achieve is this person would get resentful. There would be this passive aggressiveness. There would be this hidden tension and nothing would really be solved. But if you say, how do I want to work with this person going forwards? Well, I want to understand what happened. I want to understand what the barrier was. I want them to know they can come to me if there was a problem, and I want us to be able to move through this. That's going to be a very different conversation. So if you can start to ask yourself, what do I want from this? It's not about not holding someone accountable, but it's doing it in a way that's going to help the relationship, not hinder the relationship. And I'll send you a recording to listen to that gives you the language to have a better constructive conversation. And linked to that is also, and this is from a growth point of view, asking yourself, and it's a ego stinger, where did I contribute? So I said this exact same thing to my client. I went, okay, knowing what you know now, and you could go back, what would you have done differently in the situation? And they go, well, I probably should have spent longer briefing them and giving them exact templates. I probably shouldn't have waited till the day before to review the work. I should have checked in on Monday instead of Thursday. And so we went through this list. And so what they realized is that they weren't innocent totally in the situation. But when you can look back and go, and then go to the person and go, I've thought about this. And if I could redo this, I would have done this differently. What about you? Again, it's not about weakness. It's not about letting someone else not take responsibility. But the way that I'm showing up to the conversation is I'm owning my part and I'm making space to have a better conversation going forward. So also the thing to remember, and I touched on it, is just be careful of when you get triggered in a rude email, a WhatsApp, a text. A gut response is we angry, we want to get them, we want to show them, and we want to respond straight away. But we've all, again, had experiences. If you just paused, if you just saved the draft and not sent it, or rather picked up the phone, it would have had a better outcome. So just be so sensitive to those, because you can't take it back, and we know it's going to get misinterpreted. And at the end of the day, ask yourself, is delivering this message consistent with my desired reputation? And sometimes it's, do I want to be right or do I want peace? And I know most of the time we want to be right, but it's just asking yourself, is it really necessary? What is the impact? Is there a better way? And why I always want to bring this up when we're talking about branding is yes, we want to show up in a way. We want to deliver. We want to be this amazing provider to, even to the people in our lives, to our customers, to our clients. And sometimes we get fearful of going, but if I say no, that I'm going to derail my brand, or I'm not going to be able, I've built up this reputation. What if they don't like me? What if they don't do business with me? And I don't mean saying no as in, sorry, I can't do that. It's a way of managing expectations. Yeah, let's go with my slides. And then I'm sure they're going to jump like 40 ahead. Okay, let me carry on talking while I'm trying to figure these slides out. If someone says to you, there we go, I told you it would jump like 40 ahead. Okay, there we go. So it's just a matter of, instead of managing time, manage expectations. So if someone says to you, can you get this done for me? Our automatic assumption is this is urgent. I better drop everything. I better get it done. And if we just asked for the actual deadline, they probably would have told us actually next week is fine. But the thing is, if we keep saying yes, because we're trying to over deliver, knowing there's stuff on your plate, knowing that you're in a position of risking quality over quantity, that's going to derail our brand, because saying over promising when we know we can't deliver to the best of our ability is going to impact the brand. And it's just having different kind of conversations. So can you get this done for me by Friday? You know what? My plate is absolutely swamped. I'm available from Tuesday morning. Would Tuesday afternoon work for you? And there's going to be times where someone goes, I'm so sorry. It's an absolute emergency, right? But that should be the exception, because what we need to remember, and this comes down to boundaries, this comes down to being able to say no, because if we keep thinking, oh, I'll just do it tonight. Okay, I'll do my stuff tonight. It's fine. I'll just work the weekend. I'll just work. I'll miss the soccer match. It's going to impact in so many ways. And so the message is, there's always a judgment call in terms of when you say, okay, I'm going to take one for the team. I've got to just do this to show that loyalty, or whatever you want to call it. But if we can get into the habit of just questioning, okay, when's the deadline? When do you need this? And if there's someone who always comes to you, lastminute.com, because they know you're always going to say yes, and you can see it's a pattern, at some point you have to go, I'm so sorry, I'm fully booked. I wish you'd come to me a week ago. I can help you in 2 weeks' time. They're going to learn and they're going to stop. So we get what we tolerate. Something to think about. So I've said that. Also, guys, just remember, our brand is not, we're not just about here to be business people. We are holistic. We are here as spouses, as parents, as everything else. Protect your downtime. So if you keep saying yes to things on weekends out of guilt or fear, it should probably be a no. And just, it's about protecting that downtime, using it for things that you want, using it for what's going to start to energize you. So even Warren Buffett, you see, he said the difference between successful people and really successful people is really successful people say no to almost everything. Okay. As I said, don't worry, you'll get all the slides. Something just to also think about is, we never our best version of ourselves when we're stressed. And just to think about, okay, how do I get under stress? How do I respond to other people? What qualities bother me? And the more we can be self-aware and almost know, okay, this is a deadline day. How am I showing up? Maybe I need to go work remote. Maybe I need to go distance myself from humans. Or even just to say, this is a deadline day. It's not you. But the more that we know how we're showing up under stress, because sometimes we don't realize it, and then we tend to lash out to the people we love the most. So these are reflection points that I really encourage you to look at in your own time as well. For me, this is one of the most important parts of branding, which is intrapersonal presence, which is really how are we showing up to ourselves. And it's about mastering our thoughts. Again, research says we have between 12 and 60,000 thoughts a day. So guys, I reckon you play on the 12,000 space. Ladies, we are the north of 60,000. But what the research says is that over 80% of the thoughts we have every day are negative, battling guilt, shame, the inner critic, I'm not good enough, I should be here by now. And we tend to replay these same thoughts. So what you thought about today is probably recycled thoughts from yesterday, and we have to start paying attention to it. So if you think about your phone, it's way more advanced than we are. So when you've got to do an OS upgrade, you get the message, midnight, it's gonna do the upgrade. You wake up the next day, all the bugs are gone. We're a manual process, and we have to stop and go, the thoughts, the beliefs that I'm carrying, are these still serving me? Because our thoughts run the operating system of the story we tell ourselves. So what is that story? Because if we want to show up and serve and be powerful brands and really have great businesses and make an impact, what is the story? Well, I'm actually really bad with numbers, terrible with people. I'm petrified of public speaking. I should have done this in my 20s. How are we showing up? That's what stops us to create the brand that we want. And the more inaction that we have, it's going to reinforce the story. And this is about how do we create a better story? And I'm going to give us the solution at the end. And at the end of the day, we become what we think about. So really start to pay attention to what are those thoughts coming in? How do I course correct them? And another part of branding, and this is something we don't always think about, but yes, it's so what creates the great brand? It's how am I showing up as myself, the work that I'm putting out. It's about how am I interacting with people? How am I creating those relationships? How am I dealing with stress? But it's also how am I operating through the day? So it's not just what's in the calendar, but it's what is the state that I'm showing up with? And everything. So Cal Newport, he said, who you are, what you think, feel, and do, and what you love, it's where you put your focus, because what you focus on, you feel. And think about where we put our focus when we get stressed. We focus on everything we can't control. What if the deal closes? What if it doesn't? What if they say no? What if I get the funding? What if I don't get the funding? All things that we have zero control over. And what happens? When we focus on what we can't control, we get anxious, and not chronic anxiety, but it's those looping thoughts. And it's just imagine an internal warning system that you've got this flashlight. And so when anxiety shows up, it's telling you one of two things. You are either too future focused. I'm trying to control and predict the future, or I'm trying to control my external circumstances, or maybe even people around me, or I'm trying to control everything. And so once we're aware of that, because how are we doing things? We're in an anxious state. We're not showing up as our best. We're not making the best decisions. So what if we just said, okay, do an anxiety audit, right? In this situation that is stressing me out, what do I know? What don't I know? I mean, think about this amazing ORT community. Who could I reach out to? What resources are available? Sometimes there's things we can influence. Maybe you have to study for something. You can plan, you can study, you can have a courageous conversation. Well, what do I want to say? What's my intention? But it's really about stuff that I cannot control. I have to let go of. And sometimes all you can control is your breathing, because then at least that's going to put you in a neutral state. But the question is then, what can I control? Okay, what can I focus on? And when we can put our energy into that, it may not solve the thing we're worried about, but we're going to show up in just a more positive way. We're going to start to see solutions. We're going to start to at least put our attention into something that we can shape. And so how do we change focus with a better set of questions? So instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Why am I self-sabotaging? What is this here to teach me? How can I grow from this? It's like a Google search. Put in a lousy question and you're going to get a lousy answer. And part of this, when we're talking about thoughts and we're talking about where you're putting your focus, Tony Robbins teaches that the word you attach to your experience becomes your experience. So if I was having a conversation, Neil, I can see you on my chat. If Neil and I were having a conversation and I said, Neil, I think you're wrong. He's not going to really, okay, fine, I'm wrong. But if I said, Neil, I think you're a bit mistaken, might feel a little bit defensive. But if I said, Neil, you lying, ooh, I even felt that. Think about the difference. Mistaken, wrong, lying. One word, and that had a biochemical effect on you. That shook something. Think about the words that we use all day. What do you tell people when they ask you how you are? Or do this as a test. Reach out to 5 people today. Say, how are you? They're going to go, oh, I'm so stressed. It's chaos. It's just everything's chaos at the moment. I don't know. I'm not coping. And we have these words and we may feel like it, but what we don't realize is that is shaping us. It's shaping the way we feel. It's shaping our biochemistry, our stress hormones. So think about rather than, oh, I'm furious, I'm a little peeved. And it's not making light of a situation. I'm taking away the emotional intensity. The amount of people that I've spoken to that said, Lori, I'm stuck. I don't know, I'm stuck in the situation. And I'll often go, well, are you stuck or you maybe a little uncertain? No, I'm uncertain. I'm uncertain because why? You can unravel uncertainty, but stuck feels permanent. So just start to pay attention. Even words like always and never. This always happens to me, never works out for me. That's not a great story. So start to be just an awareness of the words you use. And so it comes down to also, guys, and why do I say this is the most important part? Reinventing your self-talk, because you could walk into a client pitch, and I've got the dress and I know how to stand, but if that voice inside is going, who do you think you are? You're an imposter. You don't deserve to be here. You don't deserve this. As much as you think you're showing off positive verbal and non-verbal, it's going to come through. So the self-talk, the way we speak to ourselves is so important. So as Tim Ferriss said, if we want to be more and do more, it's the voice that no one hears. And it's just, again, awareness. Be aware of that inner critic. What is driving you? And often what happens is that the more successful we become and we start to change and shift, that little inner critic's going, I know who you are. And it's almost this sense of trying to bring you back down. If you can just notice the voice and name it, create a character out of it so you can talk back to it. So the thing is, we can't evict our inner critic, but we can learn to manage it. And the more that we can start to quiet down the inner critic, guess who starts to pop up, who's there the whole time, we just don't hear them, is the inner coach. And let that person go, you've got this, you can do this. Look at everything you've created before. Let that voice come through. And that's what's going to help you start to create an even more powerful brand. Oh, and I see I've got 10 minutes left because we were going to do questions. Maybe I will do 5 minutes of questions. What I think is very important to talk about is, guys, energy. Because what's going to make a great brand is the level of energy that you are bringing to a situation, that you are bringing to your work, that you are bringing to yourself. And Stephen Covey spoke about something he calls the trust tax. Now, he spoke about this in relation to teams, that when there's low trust, there's low energy and low joy. But I see this as with us, that when we have low trust of ourselves, we have low energy and low joy. So how do we change that? And I'm bringing in self-care and I'm bringing in what are we doing to manage our energy? And self-care is simply, it's self-remembering. You're putting everybody else first. The business is first and other people are first. I'll fit myself in later. And it's the mindset of the entrepreneur. I don't have time for myself. I don't have time when I'm too stressed. When things are better, then I will. No, the more full we are, the more we have to give. I'm not going to get into what we know we should be doing because we all know what we should be doing. And it really just comes down to decide on one change. What's one thing you want to do? And master the habit of showing up to yourself. So let's say it's something as, I'm going to wake up tomorrow, and I'm going to go do a walk. Or maybe inside, it's a bit cold at the moment, I'm going to do a journaling, or I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to read, or I'm just going to do something on my app in my lounge. And whatever it is that you committed to, show up to yourself. If it's 5 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, if it's one mindful breath. And that's the power of micro wins, because it's the evidence that, wow, I showed up for myself. I kept the promise. And this is where our confidence comes from. It's from the promises you make to yourself. When you break that agreement again and again and again, that's when we dent our self-trust. So it's not about having a lot of time. Again, it's about consistency. This is not just consistency, how am I showing up to others? It's consistency to myself. And if we just say, okay, I'm going to do this just 5 minutes a day, just 10 minutes a day, or 3 times a week, it's going to compound. And so build your brand. I always say, if you can own the first and last 15 minutes of your day, I used to say an hour, but then that felt actually an hour can be a lot. But 15 minutes is doable because if we all just check the socials less and our emails less, we've all got 15 minutes. And this is where you start to build your brand. So if you can train yourself, get up 20 minutes earlier, put in whatever it is for you that you need. What is your oxygen? Is it exercise? Is it journaling? Is it prayer? Is it meditation? Whatever that looks like for you. I say morning, it doesn't have to be 5 o'clock. It could be 15 minutes earlier than when you wake up. But it's going to unfold more predictably. And that's where you take charge. I'm putting myself into a peak state. I'm deciding how I'm showing up for the day. So the two things to remember, do not check your phone. Don't check your messages as you wake up because you're going to see something and go, oh, now I can't look after me. I've got to attend to this, even though it's 6 a.m. And don't hit snooze. And the only reason you may hit snooze is you just haven't made a decision. You haven't decided what you want to do. And so the morning routine begins the night before. Decide in advance. What do I want to do tomorrow? How do I set myself up for success? Maybe that looks like I'm putting out the kit. I'm prepping this shake. I'm getting the username and password. I've got my journal ready, the mat, so that you can just get into the habit of starting to build your brand from the inside out. And it's not just about what am I, the self-care stuff, but really what are those things that energize you? So because, yeah, we found with 5 minutes of questions. So guys, it's all about intention. It's who do I want to be? Think about those words. Go through this clarity chart when you've got time. Again, it's just a commitment. Okay, how do I want to show up this week? How do I want to treat people? How do I want to be of service? And it's just that intention that, am I showing up like that? And the more we can set that intention, doesn't mean we're always going to get it right, but we're moving towards it. And a huge part of building your brand is acknowledging your wins. Because we spend too much time going, but I'm not there yet. I should be, but I'm not there. Versus, what would my 20-year-old self say about me? And I promise you they'd be blown away. And the more that we can just reflect, because that's the evidence of success. And when we can acknowledge where we've come from, what we've created, again, that's the rocket fuel to start moving forward. Virtual presence, guys, the slides are here for you. This is not your best use of my time to talk about this. It's just the basics of emails. Have you checked the spelling? Are they long? Please, everybody needs Grammarly. There should never be a spelling mistake. Again, there are tools. There's ChatGPT. Use it to just make sure those little niggly things, like especially if you spell someone's name wrong and it's in their email address, not going to go down well. And also something just to think about, where do people start to find us? Think about something as simple as LinkedIn. It's almost expected that you are going to be there, because if they see you or you send a proposal, I'm telling you, the first place that client is going is onto LinkedIn. Just have a great, simple profile. Doesn't need to be, over the top, but just a photo of you. It should just be, do I trust this person? Would I like to work with this person? So just make sure that you're there. Also, it's a great way to network, to look for clients. If you can follow trends, maybe people that the clients that you're looking to connect to, maybe they've written pieces, go on and comment on it. Let them start to build a relationship with you, but it is such a powerful tool. I'm sorry, but there's something more important that I want to talk about in terms of how do we start to really build a powerful brand. And now my slides are doing their thing again. There we go. So I'm not going to chat about this. I want to get to one last piece at the end. Why are my slides doing this? Okay, I'm going to talk it. Okay, so one last piece before we get into the final solution is also start to think about exposure. So how are you creating visibility for yourself? So again, I said LinkedIn. It's also the art of self-promotion. Some people feel like, oh, I'm going to be, I look arrogant, or people are going to think I'm this, but it's also about idea promotion. So if you've got something great that you're offering, it's not about you being indulgent. It's about the idea. It's about value. Do you have a newsletter? Where are you showing up? You know, some people go, oh, but the work will just speak for itself. It's not going to speak for itself. Look for mentors, look for sponsors, look for people that can back you when you're not in the room. But the more that you can also just get comfortable being out there in your own way, it doesn't mean you need to post videos. I don't post videos. My way of being out in the world every day is writing. I post an article, I post a quote. It's something thoughtful for people to think about. So just think about what that could look like for you. A very important piece of your brand is get comfortable with uncertainty. And it's really hard because as an entrepreneur, I want to know what's going to happen. I want to know when the money's coming in. I want to know who the next client is. But the quality of our life is proportional to how much uncertainty you can comfortably sit with. And it's just keep doing the work, keep showing up, and also trust. And I always, the phrase that I always say to myself, you know, in those uncertain times, it's on the way. It's on the way. I just keep doing, as long as I'm doing the right things, it keeps showing up. So be okay with that uncertainty. Don't let it rattle you. And the reason often that fear comes up, because that is what it is we spend a lot of time running the movie of old failures or old experiences. And then we play that again and again and again, and it keeps us playing small and it holds us back. And that's why we don't phone the person we think we should phone. What if we played a new movie? What if we created a new future vision? And so rather than fearing it, instead of focusing, remember we said focus, it's not about what will I lose, but what could I gain? And just what if? What if they say yes? What if this is the product they've been waiting for? And it's having that kind of, you know, that beautiful causeless positivity. That's what entrepreneurs have to do. You got to keep believing that it's going to happen. So the last piece that I want to speak about today, because, you know, we talk about a lot and we know what we should be doing. And the days we wake up where we go, I know what she said, but I don't care. You know, it's like, oh, I'm not phoning that person. I'm not doing this. I should post, but I'm not. And so this is that kind of break out of emergency to really get us to do the right thing. And it's all about this concept of becoming your future self. So if I said to you, are you the same person as 5 years ago? You're going to go, definitely not. So then are you going to be the same person in 5 years' time? Arguably not. So this is the tool. If you can see current you and future you as two different people, you're going to start to make very different decisions today. You're going to start to show up to yourself very differently. So now let's say that you have 5 years' time, your business is in a different place. You are, you know, you're exactly where you want to be, but guess what? It requires now a lot of public speaking. And the you of today has told yourself, so bad at that. I'm terrible. I can't be in front of people, can't do this thing. But for you to set future you up for success means you need to start getting comfortable with discomfort today. It means any opportunity there is to speak, to put yourself out there, the more comfortable you get now, the easier it is for future self. So go through these prompts. So the way we start is we go, okay, if I think about the me in 5 years' time, because also some of the reason we get stuck is we lose a compelling future vision. We feel like, well, is this all there is? So start to think about, okay, what is their day-to-day like? What are they doing? How are they making an impact? How much money are they making? What are the skills that they've got? How do they show up? You know, what do they have for dinner? Who are they spending their time with? What is their health like? What is their energy like? And it starts to give you a really solid idea of who do I want to start to grow myself into? Because when we choose a behavior, we choose future consequences. And this is the difference between if we want to wake up and we go, oh, it's cold, I'm not going to go do the run, versus if I don't get up, I'm really going to put future me in a compromising position, because if I want their health to be phenomenal, I better start doing my part now. So it gives you the sense of accountability. Otherwise, it feels like, oh, who cares? No one's watching today. Every day, future you is watching. And if we can use that to pull us to start to, and not even start, but continue to show up as our best self, it's a push motivation. It's not having to force yourself. It's actually a drive to start to put yourself out of your comfort zone. And so that's why having a compelling future vision, well, these are the clients I want. This is the kind of day I've got. I have a client who said to me, I only want to work 4 days a week, and I want that last day just for creative space. I said, great, how are we going to start to create that today? But he's got a vision of who are those clients? What are the hours? And that's, again, what starts to energize us. It gives us meaning and purpose. And so we create ourselves and the person we want to be so we create that version by behaving ourselves into it. And there's two kinds of people. There's someone who goes, I have 15 years of experience, or they have 1 year that they've just repeated 15 times, and they make the same mistakes and they do the same thing, and it's the same patterns. And so the difference is we need to this is about growth. It doesn't matter if we make mistakes. Brilliant. How's that going to benefit future me? What have I learned from that? And if we can just keep growing from the experiences we have, taking the lesson, drop the story. So the question then becomes, what are we saying yes to that our future self would wish we would say no to? Are we procrastinating? Are we trying to focus on 6 different things versus if we just put our energy into that one for now, wow, that's going to put us in a different place. Who are we keeping in our lives? Who are we ignoring in our lives? What are it's a filter, guys. This is why having this as your filter of what am I going to say yes to? Where am I directing my energy? Where am I directing my time? So that we can step into that future self brand. So it's also start to think about, what am I reading? What am I listening to? What are the podcasts? Who am I surrounding myself with to also shape that? And so to close off, got 2 more slides. So these are my 2 favorite quotes, and it's from Austin Kleon. It's a fabulous book. It'll come back to me what the title is. And he said, build a good name. Keep your name clean. Don't make compromises. Don't worry about making a bunch of money or being successful. Be concerned with doing good work. And if you can build a good name, eventually that name will be its own currency. And so we've spoken about a lot, we've shared a lot, but tomorrow, if you wake up and think, now what? Don't say, what do I want to do today? What would future me want me to do today? And then take action. So it's this simple. You are a brand. You are in charge of your brand. There is no single path to success. And there is no one right way to create the brand called you, except this. Start today or else.